Hi, I'm Chris Post, contributing writer.
I'm Aster Lufkin. I'm a contributing writer.
David Powell. I'm also a contributing writer.
And this is your daily Star Trek news weekly roundup. Roundup. All right. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about this week was more awards for Star Trek. Patrick Stewart is going to receive the International Cinematographers Guild Showperson of the Year award. Uh, so this is obviously it's an annual award. It's given out to somebody who has made significant contributions in the year to entertainment. And so show person is kind of a broad topic, but this year they went with Patrick Stewart recognizing his work in Star Trek Picard. What do you guys think? Was he the most significant show person of the year?
Oh, I don't know. That's a really
Yeah,
big question to ask. Who's the most significant show person of the year? I think Sir Patrick Stewart has an amazing career, and I think he definitely deserves to be recognized for it. But so much TV has happened this year,
Hmm.
and uh, from the people I talk to, not many people actually know Star Trek, at least my age, and that are like consuming media. So it's like interesting that he got show person of the year, even though Star Trek almost feels very niche, at least for today's generation.
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good observation. How relevant is Star Trek outside of the Trek community, of outside of the fandom. Is Patrick Stewart that recognizable? What do you think, Dave?
Well, that's an interesting development in that. I mean, it used to be that science, the science fiction community, nerddom was not cool, and then it became cool, and yet now Aster saying there are people that don't know Star Trek. Uh,
Oh yeah, nobody in my children's I have teenage kids, 14 to 15 years old, and none of their friends are into Star Trek. Star Wars, yes, but Star Trek, no.
yeah, interesting. Yeah, I
Okay.
don't have kids, so I'm not in with that.
Yeah, I uh I have four, two sets of twins, and so I have a they have a kept me abreast of some of the entertainment trends, and Patrick Stewart is definitely not in their wheelhouse. So,
Yeah.
but
So maybe the question of whether Patrick Stewart is show person of the year depends on who you ask.
yeah, he was he featured very prominently in Paramount Plus's Super Bowl ad. I don't know if you guys saw that ad where he picks up Arnold from the Hey Arnold cartoon and throws him into a wall, basically. But but Patrick Stewart was like the star kind of that commercial. And but we were talking a few weeks ago about the lifetime achievement award that the Next Generation cast got, and the other awards that Star Trek actors got. Picard, the series, got shown a lot of love in addition to the actors. And at that point, I posed the question that maybe it's a bit of love letter to Star Trek, because so many of these shows are ending, with Picard ending and Discovery ending and these kind of things. And so um, I don't know. I think Patrick Stewart is a great actor. He's certainly done a lot of fantastic things, even outside of his work with Star Trek. Um, but I don't know that he was necessarily the show person of the year. So maybe I'm a little cynical But kudos to him because he has had a very distinguished career, and it's nice to see him have this kind of third act way to conclude his Star Trek career at least. Okay, so other big news that came out this week in the world of Star Trek was the talks about a merger between the Paramount Plus app and possibly the Peacock app or some other streaming service. And so, among some of the fan communities were concerns that a larger company isn't always better in terms of creating content and keeping content coming. When Paramount Plus is creating its own content and distributing that content, it has, I don't know, maybe a little bit more care for for it as opposed to it just being distributed on somebody else's content platform. Uh, it's been nice for me, at least as a Star Trek fan, having all of Star Trek content in one place. And now we see that that is no longer the case since many of the movies are no longer available on Paramount Plus. They got moved to Max. I think Max is where they ended up. So what do you guys think? Is it scary times ahead for Star Trek fans with all these behind the scenes moves happening over at Paramount Plus?
I personally was excited because I pay for both Paramount and Peacock. Um, so I was like, oh, they should totally merge. Because I watch Yellow Jackets, which is a show on Peacock. And then so I was like, oh well, I have to pay for that, and I have to pay for Paramount for Star Trek, and it's too much for me. I juggle my subscriptions, so I'm like, oh, this show's coming out. I should renew this one, but cancel this one. So the more companies that merge, the better for me. But maybe not, maybe not for Star Trek. And I think I guess that's something to be worried about. Like what you said with like suddenly there's more people than just Paramount controlling the Star Trek that gets released. But I think recently Star Trek has become sort of beloved, and I think it's making Paramount money. Otherwise they'd probably stop creating new Star Trek. So I'd be surprised if it really greatly impacted the Star Trek that was being released.
Well, I know that we are all Star Trek fans, but from an outsider's point of view, you take a look at it, you're like, do we really need like five Star Trek shows in production at one time? Is that maybe? And I know that it's not just Star Trek. I mean, there are three FBI shows over at CBS. FBI Most Wanted, and FBI International. That there were, I don't know how many NCIS shows going on at one time.
Yeah, I was going to
So,
mention NCIS too.
so, but all of those are CBS. So it looks like like CBS doesn't mind having multiple franchises in production at one time, but you don't see that so much over at NBC. So if it's a combined effort, will we see our selection go down? Will they focus on one or two shows instead of three or four? Because Paramount is already, they ended Picard, they're ending Discovery, they renewed and then canceled Prodigy, which found a home over at Netflix. So uh, yeah, I don't know, but it definitely does seem like there is some scary times, maybe for people
Yeah.
who like the content. Uh,
Yeah.
with any
On the other
streaming
hand, though,
service. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say that on the other hand, though, we've got the Section 31 movie coming,
And that
and
is in production.
yeah, and I'm not sure where we are with the Academy series. Is that still?
It is approved and in pre-production, as far as I've heard. I've not heard anything about an actual start to filming yet, but it's been approved, it's greenlit, and it's in pre-production. Last reports that I saw.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so I know that CBS believes in Star Trek. Paramount Network believes in Star Trek. I just don't know that if they merge with somebody else that they would have that faith in Star Trek. And so um, and it's I think we're probably going to see a lot of these mergers. We've already seen some. HBO Max and Discovery Plus merged last year and just became Max. And so um, it's I'm not involved in that aspect of the entertainment industry, but I do know that from what I've seen in the news, none of those streaming companies are making as much money as they want to make, as their shareholders kind of insist that they make, and so everybody's trying to figure out a formula. So
Mhm.
um, right now, though, we do have more Star Trek to look forward to. So we'll
Yeah.
keep going, keep going with that. Um, and now, the other thing that was in the news this week was there is an effort in Valdez, Alaska, to build a statue of William T. Riker. And so it is currently being considered by their parks department. The statue would be put into a park, a city park there in Valdez. I've seen a picture of the proposed statue design. It is next generation era Riker, uh, wearing the two piece like season three next generation era uniform, standing with one leg up in a classic Riker maneuver sort of pose, and
Of
so
course.
um, there's a lot of people there in Valdez is not a big city, but there's a number of people who are in favor of it. The parks director though says he's more of a Star Wars guy, so um, but he did say he understood the value of it as a tourist attraction, and so that is, I think, what you know, from an economic development standpoint, I think that might be the selling point to it is that um, there are two other statues in the United States. There's one in Iowa for James T. Kirk, and I don't remember where the other one is. Indiana, I think, maybe for Catherine Janeway.
Mhm.
And then there's a town in Canada called Vulcan, Canada, and it has a statue of Spock that's there. So and all of those they do attract tourism. Um, I've not been to any of them, but there are people who do go and see those things. So what do you guys think? Is that something that they should do, or do you think it's something that's kind of silly?
Given what we were saying earlier about who knows Star Trek and who doesn't, I wonder who, eh, how many people in Valdez, Alaska are going to see the statue potentially and say, that guy,
Yeah,
why
yeah,
is that here?
yeah. That's maybe a fair point. It might have made more sense uh, 2 decades ago when they were still using that character a little bit more. Although Riker did play into Picard season 3 a little bit, but that's not the statue design that they're going with. They're not going with Captain Riker. They're going with Commander Riker. So, um, but I always think it's kind of interesting. So the statue thing, it does have a Star Trek connection. If you think about in Star Trek First Contact, Geordi talks about how he went to Zephyr Cochrane Elementary School and that there's a statue on the spot where they're standing. And then in Lower Decks, there was an episode of Lower Decks where they have a statue to I can't remember exactly what they called him now. The most important man in the history of Starfleet, and it was Miles O'Brien, but there was a statue of Miles O'Brien. So, so in canon, there is this notion of building statues of prominent figures. So it kind of makes sense a little bit. I think it's funny that you know when the writers were coming up with these character backgrounds, I don't think that they ever expected that the hometowns that they were choosing would necessarily embrace the characters in quite the way that they did.
Yeah.
I can't imagine there's many characters from, oh, I forget the name of the town, like something Alaska.
Yeah, yeah,
You
Valdez,
know,
Alaska,
yeah,
probably,
Valdez, Alaska. So
yeah,
they're probably proud of who they can get.
yeah.
And I do wonder, do they need to officially license the statue? Like, is the character of Riker
Mm.
copyright? Like, is there a
He's
copyright? Do they
he's
have to get
it's
permission?
it's it's definitely a trademark. The logos and those kind of things that you see on the placards are almost certainly trademarked, and yeah, there would be a copyright that would be in effect on the character's name and likeness. Um, but yeah, I don't know what the process is for that. If I'm sure if if you contact Paramount and you say, yeah, we want to build a statue of one of your characters, they would probably want to sign off on it and make sure that it wasn't, like substandard or something like that. But they would probably appreciate the publicity. But then if you were selling like little tiny figurines of the Riker statue, they would probably want a cut of that money as well. I can't imagine that Paramount wouldn't want a licensing fee. But yeah, I don't know what the process is for that. I don't have any background or experience with that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question. It's a good question. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about was we now have our confirmed date. April 4th is going to be the premiere date for Star Trek Discovery for the fifth and final season. And so I was just wanted to touch base, see what you guys were doing in preparation for that premiere date. Any big plans in the works? Any viewing or anything like that?
Hey, I'm actually going to a concert that night. So I planned the concert before I knew
Oh, the
Discovery
sea
was
Aster.
premiering,
You
so I'm gonna
you
have to watch it late.
you told us that you were like this huge Discovery fan, and then you're not gonna like reschedule. You're not gonna just like sell your concert ticket and stay home to watch. I think last
Uh,
week you said you had tissues and popcorn ready to go
I do.
for.
I have tissues and popcorn ready for April 5th.
Yeah. So uh I will be doing a watch through of the first four seasons, and I have not seen season one or I haven't seen any of the seasons since they broadcast. I have not gone back and done a rewatch of those, and so what I remember of season one was that I didn't really like it. I liked some of the characters. I definitely liked Michael Burnham. I liked Saru a lot. I liked what they were doing with that character. I saw a lot of potential for growth in that character. Um, I I had a hard time though with I've talked about this before. Is it when they do prequels and the technology is so much more advanced than what follows? That's a it really does break my suspension of disbelief and takes me out of it. But some of the stuff, some of the subplots and stuff, I just did not did not care much about, um, and so I'm hoping now that I know where it's going, and I have liked what has come out of it, that I'll have a fresh appreciation for season one. I came around during season two. I started to like it during season two, and by season three, season four, I was enjoying the episodes. But season one, I was just like, what am I watching? Because I don't know, it it didn't feel like Star Trek to me sometimes. It felt like science fiction, but it didn't feel like Star Trek to me sometimes. As it went along, I think it felt more like Star Trek. Now, Dave, how much of Discovery have you seen?
I've seen it. I've seen it all, but only as it was broadcast.
Okay.
The first four seasons. I
Uh,
was stoked when they announced that Discovery was coming. Thought, oh, cool. Men on the ground floor of some new Star Trek, which hadn't happened since Next Generation for me. Um, and I do need to rewatch it because I know I missed a lot because there's a lot going on all throughout
yeah, there were
the
a lot of
first
subplots.
seasons. Yeah. Um, so I don't know if I'll have time to get through four seasons before April 4th or not, but give it a shot. Or maybe just at least watch the last episode of season 4 to
Yeah.
kind of launch into season 5.
So now, Aster, how many times have you seen it? I know you said it's your favorite. Have you gone back and done a rewatch?
I haven't rewatched the whole thing. I do go back and watch my favorite episodes, occasionally, but I really so JoJo's the Mirrorverse JoJo is like one of my favorite characters of all time.
Okay,
So
she's
I go
good.
back and watch her episodes a lot. Um, and then also there's Mahani Ikehalika Po. She was like in like three episodes, and I love her character so much.
Hmm.
She's like the so I go and I watch her episodes.
Okay, so you kind of cherry pick then a little bit.
Yeah, so that's I have like such a really great view of Discovery because I pick all of my favorites and I just rewatch those and
Yeah.
I just like pretend some of the weirder stuff doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So
So
I'm not gonna I don't think I'm ever gonna rewatch it because I like to idealize it in my head.
yeah, I like completeness, and so I will like I said, I'm planning to go back and do a full rewatch of it. I hope to get a little bit more appreciation for it. I kind of liked what they were doing with the Klingons. I didn't care for redesigning the Klingons again, and I've talked about this before too. Is I I I understand that when they did Klingons in the '60s, they weren't the way that Gene Roddenberry wanted them to be. So when he had more money in the second film, he made them be the way that he wanted them to be. Uh, and so great. And I know that they got tweaked a little bit here and there, and they did the retcon episodes in Enterprise to explain why they changed, but that
Yeah.
was a pretty radical redesign in Discovery, and so um, I don't know. It just that was that was one of my big first was like I don't know about this when I saw what they were doing with the Klingons. The breaking canon stuff. I Leonard Nimoy in one of his books, he talked about canon and how he didn't feel that canon should stand in the way of good storytelling. And I kind of feel the same way, you know. Especially like if you're going to watch Lower Decks and enjoy the humor in Lower Decks, you have to really kind of let go of canon because they are tap dancing on Cannon's grave with some of the stuff that they're doing there, and so um,
Yeah.
and so I know people who argue, it's produced by Paramount, it's released by Paramount, so it's canon, um, and I feel sorry for those people because it must really affect their enjoyment. So I don't mind canon breaking
Yeah.
quite so much. It does like Discovery, though, like when they went to the Klingon temple and they're like, hey, spoiler alert, they go to the Klingon temple and they're like, here's a time stone that will help you travel through time. And then, like, during the temporal Cold War that they talk about in Enterprise, why didn't they have any of those time crystals? Like, that probably would have been a little beneficial to, you know? So, it's the prequel part of it.
I'm kind of with you, Chris, that because I'm a no I like reading the Star Trek novels,
Hmm.
and you want to talk about breaking canon, it's
Yeah.
it's all over the place. Even though the current writers try to maintain the continuity, they get stepped on um, at times
Oh, yeah.
by
Yeah.
the by what's produced on screen after they've written their novels.
Hmm. Yeah, that's like that's like the multiverse of madness, basically, the novels, because like I've read so many novels that either just intentionally don't care about canon, or like you say, that are undone by future broadcasts that doesn't acknowledge the novels at all. And so I don't know how many times Spock has had children in novels, but I know it's at least two. And so it's like, and
Yeah,
yeah, so I enjoy the novels too, but I just consider those just their own separate multiversal universe off to the side. Fun
yeah,
adventures with characters I'm familiar with, and so yeah, the canon thing doesn't bother me at all.
yeah.
Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of our roundup for this week. Once again, I've been Chris Post, a contributing writer, with Aster Lufkin and David Powell, and so. Uh, join us again next week. I want to just before we leave, though, I want to take a quick moment to thank our Patreon patrons. Patreon patrons get to see this video first. They get to see it a few days early, ad free on Patreon. And so, if you want to continue to support us, you can become a patron over at Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month, get access to early content before it appears anywhere else. And you help us produce this content and the content for our website, which you can find at www.dailystartreknews.com. From all of us here, thank you and have a great day.